Hello and welcome here to TalkFCB and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, where we are building up to a very big and important game this weekend for Barca, coming up against Real Betis at the Benito Villamarín. And today we're going to be looking into Hansi Flick's words there. He spoke about the likes of Vitor Roque, Lamine Yamal, Ronald, Araújo, and he also gave us a few clues on what the lineup could be tomorrow. We're going to be talking all about that, but also coming up later in today's video, we've got big transfer news today. Lots of transfer talk in the media with Jonathan Tah in particular very much on our radar today. So lots coming up. Get yourselves ready for it. And let's do it. But let's first of all kick off with a super thanks shout out here to Victor. And this is a very special one indeed, because right now he's not going to be able to watch Barca or the videos for the time being because he is off to the Navy. So very best of luck indeed. He's a great supporter here on the channel and I really do appreciate that. So very best of luck to you. And Barca this weekend though, they have a challenge of their own, heading away to Real Betis. And that's going to take place, guys, on the Saturday afternoon kickoff slot, and Barca recently have had quite a few earlier kickoff times, and I'm sure for many of you that's a big relief, those who have to wait up late into the night here to see some of these Barca games. Others may be having to wake up early these days, so let me know where you are watching from right here today. But let's start with Hansi Flick's words ahead of the game, because he was actually asked there in his press conference looking at the league table. Barca right now 4 points ahead of Real Madrid after Real Madrid's defeat against Athletic Club in midweek. That was a big moment potentially in the title race as it stands, and Flick there was asked, does it give you a real boost? Does it help the players and the feeling there to see Real Madrid losing a game? And Flick answered in typical Flick fashion. He said no. He said, I am always only looking at ourselves, only at what we can do. He said, even if it's a club like Real Madrid, like Atletico Madrid, he said, we don't care. It's good to focus only on what you have to do, and this is our way. It's a big match for us tomorrow. So Flick there, he's not getting drawn in to what Real Madrid are doing, what Atletico Madrid are doing this season. He is only focusing on ourselves, and he's conveying that message too to the players. And then there was another very interesting question coming his way, and that was with regard to Lamine Yamal. And this here was quite a long question, basically stemming around the fact that Barca, with Yamal in that starting lineup, have not lost a game in La Liga. And what does Flick make of that there? Does he feel as though there's an over-dependence on Yamal, as we discussed yesterday in the podcast episode there? And that was an interesting question to go to Flick. And all that he replied, he didn't really elaborate on this answer at all. He said, well, if that statistic is true, then we are looking forward to the match tomorrow, implying there that Yamal is going to be in the lineup, he's going to be with us, and if he is, we know that we have a good chance of success. But I sense there that Flick was a little bit irked by that question. He didn't really want to talk about the dependence on Yamal, and he didn't really want to go further into that, which was quite interesting, because then he was asked another question that actually I was really shocked to hear him ask. I don't really understand where this question came from, because he was asked there, what are your thoughts on the Club World Cup draw? Now, why would you ask Hansi Flick that, the Barcelona coach, when we are not even in the tournament there? It was a really strange question to ask, and Flick at first said, well, I don't really have any thoughts. We're not there. I can't really control that. We didn't qualify before I even came, so he didn't really have any thoughts on that. But he did say, I do know, though, that the players have a really big workload, so maybe it's better that we get some rest and that we have a very good pre-season, really important pre-season next summer. But he said, look, I don't care about that. I cannot change the fact that we're not there. But it was interesting to hear Flick already talking about next pre-season there. After he's been here a whole year, just think of what he can do in that next pre-season, having an entire summer there with the group that he has now overseen. That, to me, really exciting already to hear about the potential of that. But then he was asked about Vitor Roque. Now, Roque, before this game, guys, came out actually and said, I see myself scoring against Barcelona. He said, God willing, because that's what we work for all week. But he did say that if I score, I will not celebrate out of respect for the club. And we were debating yesterday, weren't we? Will he celebrate? Won't he if he was to score? Roque right now, he's still trying to find his way in La Liga, trying to find his way at Real Betis. Some games he can be electric, very, very composed in front of goal. Other games it can be a little bit more disjointed. What did Flick make of Roque's form? And he was asked ultimately, are you fearful of facing Roque? Do you sense that he could cause danger against your team tomorrow? And Flick was incredibly honest. He said no. He said, I believe in my players. He said every opponent has good players, has good attacking players as well, just like Real Betis do, but he said we have to take care of them as a team, as a collective. But I thought it was really interesting to hear him talk more about Roque's time at Betis. He said he's doing good, he's improved a lot, he didn't have the best situation when he arrived here in Barcelona, and Flick admitted, I spoke with him whilst he was here, and I felt as though he wasn't happy, so I felt the decision to join another team was the right one, and it's good to see that he is feeling better now. And obviously, you don't want to read too much into quotes, you don't want to read too much into the tone here of Hansi Flick, but just listening to those words there and watching sort of the facial expressions, I didn't really get the feeling that he viewed Roque as his player. Now that's interesting obviously because he didn't spend much time with Roque. Of course he left the club quite soon after Flick arrived, but it felt to me as though we were talking about a player who's not here and who might not be here. You know, that's the real feeling I got here. Talking about his progress, talking about the fact that he's happier now he's away from Barca, I just didn't really get the sense as though as of this moment Flick is thinking about Roque returning, that Flick is thinking about having Roque as part of his squad in the future. But like I say, it is early days and we can't read too much into just the one quote, but that there I thought was very interesting. But then Flick was indeed asked about the fitness of Ronald Araújo. When exactly can we expect him back now? Is he going to be back any day now? Could he even play in tomorrow's match there? What did Flick reply? He said, no, not tomorrow. He said he will go with us to Dortmund in that game. He said we planned that he's going to be maybe on the bench, but he said his goal has always been Leganes, which is the game after the Dortmund one there. So he said, let's see, he's doing very well, but it's not easy to include him because the squad is very, very full. So the way that I read into those words there is maybe Araújo would have been part of the squad. You know, he could travel with the team, he could be alongside his teammates there on the bench. But the problem right now is with so many players fit and available, it's a great problem to have. Everybody's ready to play. You know, everybody there that's with the squad can contribute now. And if Araújo isn't quite at that stage yet of his recovery, it's better there to wait. We may see him on the bench against Dortmund. If not, we will see him against Leganes. It is only now a matter of time. But what about this weekend then? What about here the fact that we're coming into this game against Betis ahead of that Dortmund game? Are we going to see any rotation at all? Of course, we saw Lewandowski rested against Mallorca. You'd expect him to come back in. But will somebody else go out there? Flick spoke previously about thinking about resting Rafinha. That did not happen against Mallorca. And by the way, that's not likely to happen here either. He was asked in his press conference there, you thought about it. Is now the time maybe to rest Rafinha? Could we see him rested in this game? But Flick said, oh no. He said, no, we need Rafinha in every match. And he said when he says that he's able to play, that he feels good to play, he will play. Sometimes it'll be for 90 minutes, sometimes it'll be for less, but he is very important to us, and he will start tomorrow there. So Flick, very firm on Rafinha. The thought might have been there previously, but it is not now after seeing the willingness and the hunger from Rafinha to play. And I'm just wondering here, if there is going to be one player who's maybe saved, who's maybe rested ahead of that Dortmund game, could it maybe be Pedri? That is the way that I'm feeling ahead of this game. Another player who's so essential to what we do, so important to our season. We, of course, want to look after him, and we don't want to let those minutes build up too high. So I'm just wondering here that maybe in this game against Betis, Pedri could be the player sacrificed there from the lineup. But once again, guys, just like we said in the last game, let's not overdo it here. This is a very important game. It's a very difficult game away from home to play Betis. You've got to start strong. And the most important thing for us would be starting the game so well and doing so well in the first half that in the second half then we can make a few changes if needed, if necessary, ahead of that Dortmund game. So I would play there very, very strong backline. Koundé, Pau, Inigo, Alejandro Balde. In midfield then, maybe we can rest Pedri, and you could replace him with Gavi coming back into the starting lineup there alongside Casado. And then in terms of the front four, let's just go strong. Let's go strong. Let's take the game to Betis. Let's get ourselves ahead and comfortable early on. Yamal, Olmo, Rafinha and Lewandowski, surely they can help us get the job done. Because in terms of the predictions, I would say here that confidence has definitely been restored ahead of this game after that really emphatic second half performance against Mallorca, and the majority here going for a win, nearly half of you for Barca to win by 3 goals against Real Betis. And I'm actually going to go with something a little bit more slender. I think it's going to be a bit of a tighter game here. Betis are a tricky opponent, and Barca right now are still just trying to find their absolute top gear. So I'm going to go with Betis 1, Barca 3 in this game there. A 3-1 victory for Barca. And again, I would happily take that there. To go to a place like Betis away from home, to get 3 points and to win it relatively comfortably, I would more than take that. But of course, guys, in today's video, it's not just about the important game here and now, the present moment. We're also looking always to the future. We're planning ahead. We're looking at our squad, wondering how it's going to take shape and evolve as these months go on. And let's talk first of all about the January transfer window right here today. Because do not forget, guys, that Flick right throughout this season has been very, very clear that if a player is not really in his plans, if they're not expected to get too many minutes, he won't just keep them in the corner, hiding away, and sort of letting them wonder, what's going on? When am I going to play? Am I going to play? He's always said, I'm going to be upfront with you, and I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be direct and tell you, if you're not expected to be in my plans and get minutes, you will know. Now, according to widespread reports this morning, Flick has now told Ansu Fati and Eric Garcia that with everybody now available in the squad, with the squad that we see before us, they are the 2 players who are unlikely to get that many minutes as this season goes on. And the feeling right now within the club is it would be better if Ansu and Eric both looked elsewhere for those minutes in the January transfer window. So potentially there, could we see Ansu leave in January? Could we see Eric Garcia depart the club again in the coming window? Would you be happy with those 2 departing? And do you understand Flick's reasoning there behind not really seeing them having a lot of minutes right now? But it doesn't just stop there either, because moving on from January, we're also already thinking and planning for the summer, and we have to talk in detail here about Jonathan Tah. Now, this is a player who's been linked pretty heavily to the club over the past months there, the Leverkusen and Germany centre-back. He's 28 right now. He'll be 29, though, by the time that he becomes a free agent this coming summer, and we've known for a while he is a definite Barca target. But over the past 24 hours, things have really moved forward very, very quickly with him, because Deco actually travelled to Germany on Tuesday. He met directly with Jonathan Tah's agent, and Tah himself, he was even in the meeting, and apparently he was very, very happy with what was presented by the club. And also Tah's agent, this should be noted too, it's Pini Zahavi. Now that certainly works in the club's favour, make no mistake about that. He's also the agent there of Robert Lewandowski and Hansi Flick himself, don't forget. We built up a really good relationship with Zahavi over the past few years. Now the meeting apparently went really well. That is what we're hearing in the media. The meeting went so well that right now Tah is definitely expected to sign for Barca. You know, Bayern were interested as well. They were trying to really enter the race. But after this meeting, it all looks very, very likely that Tah will become a Barca signing in the summer and arrive on a free. And one thing to really note over this deal, Hansi Flick is a massive part of it. He has been a driving force behind the deal, and he's really pushed for this Jonathan Tah signing. He's made the club aware of his interest in the centre-back there, probably since he arrived at the club. We knew that Tah's contract was winding down. We've been planning for this now for quite a while, and that comes from Flick identifying him as a real player for his system. And looking at the deal right now, coming in on a free, I think it would be a good signing, an astute signing there. You're adding quality at very, very low risk. You know, it's a free signing coming in, and we've seen very often in the past of Barca, that's worked well for us. This is the kind of signing that really has paid dividends. And you also have to bear in mind here, guys, if Flick wants him, then you've got to trust him on that. Effectively here, Hansi Flick in his system, we know that centre-backs, they need to be specialists. You know that it's a very specific role there with that high line. You need very specific players to play it well. profile, and if he believes here, and he does, that Jonathan Tah would fit that profile. He's a very physical centre-back there. He's got excellent attributes there in terms of pace. He's very, very good covering in behind, and clearly Flick has a plan for him. But I think the big question that we'd all have here is not about Tah's quality, not about the fact that it would be a good free signing, but who's going to leave? Because there must be somebody right now that is going to be on that conveyor belt. At the club right now in terms of centre-backs, we've got Pau Cubarsí. We know he's not leaving. You've got Inigo Martinez, who's done brilliantly this season, and Flick has already said he wants to renew him, so that then leaves Ronald Araújo. Yet to come back, of course, he's working his way back now, as we've said. And then Andreas Christensen too, who has also been linked away from the club. So who out of those there could you see maybe departing? Is it possible here that we could have all 5, including Tah, at the club next season? For me, that looks a little bit unrealistic. But please, guys, let me know your thoughts there on whether Tah would be a good signing. Do you want to see him arrive on a free? And out of those centre-backs, who would you sacrifice to bring him in? Or would you rather keep what we have? Let me know all of those opinions in the comments down below, and let me know your predictions ahead of Real Betis against Barca on Saturday. I'm excited for the game, and I'm looking forward to see what we can produce. Thank you indeed, guys, for watching, for tuning in, and for all of your support. But until next time, as always, Visca, Real Barca.